So just a little background on me. I've been in this business for less than 2 years, so I'm probably closer to your shoes than anyone else. So I know how you feel going in, and I know kind of the struggles that you're going to have starting up. And Stacy's exactly right. When you're starting, and Jesse actually says it, it's like a locomotive. Like it takes a lot of effort to get it moving. And at first it's going to be slow, and then once it starts rolling, you're going to get some traction, and the momentum is going to carry you. So as long as you put in that effort up front, that's what's really going to be important. So what I want to talk about today is essentially some of the things that I did in my first year that were really helpful for me to get clients, to get credibility with my sphere, and to start actually doing some business right away. Like Stacy said, this is a business about talking to people, so you have to have those contacts, like 50 to 100 contacts, and it's about how do you get those contacts. And it's simple. I mean, you want to talk to as many people as possible about real estate. That's essentially what your job is going to be at the beginning, because if you don't have any clients, you can't be a real estate agent. You need the clients first. So some of the best ways that I was able to get clients in my first year were open houses, utilizing social media really, really heavily, using my database that already kind of existed and making sure that they knew I was in the business, I was credible, and I knew what I was doing. And then also some networking events, because I realized for me, I'm pretty good at conversations with people, so if I can get in front of them, I can talk to them and start talking about real estate. And if people like you and they trust you, they're going to want to do business with you. Those are really the only two things. It's like they got to like you and they got to trust you. So open houses for me were totally awesome, because it's like, when else do you just get a bunch of people walking in to an area where you're the only real estate agent and they want to talk about real estate? So it was, for me, the easiest way to start getting a nice database, start getting clients. The things that you're going to want to do to make sure that your open houses are successful is first of all, you don't need to have listings to actually do an open house. A lot of people think, oh, like I need my own listings to do an open house. This brokerage has like hundreds of listings, and there's no way that every single agent who has a listing can do open houses for all their listings. So all these teams here that have hundreds of listings, you can go to them, schedule open houses with them, and hold them on the weekends. So that's a great way for them to market their properties, and for you guys to start doing some of these open houses and interfacing with new clients. So the first thing you're going to do is just the agent will schedule it online for you. So you have people seeing it on Zillow, they're seeing it on Trulia, all the sites they're going on, they're going to see you're having an open house. Second thing that I did to make my open houses a little bit more successful was like Fridays before Saturday open house, I would go around in the afternoon and I would just invite the neighbors. So I would knock on doors and say, hey, we're having an open house the next day. Stop by if you want to stop by a little bit beforehand. We're going to have some of the neighbors over. And that was a way to get a lot of the neighbors through. And people have this thought oh, we don't want just the nosy neighbors coming through. They're never going to do any business. Nosy neighbors are awesome because they're looking at the house for a reason. They want to know what's selling in the neighborhood. Maybe they're looking to sell and they're wondering, okay, this house is listed at $250. Is my house, in better shape or in worse shape? So the neighbors, it's a good thing to have them through and just get a little bit of traction at your open house. Have marketing materials with your info on them that are professional looking, that differentiate you. Don't just bring like a normal sheet with the information. Make sure that you're bringing business cards, marketing materials. Something I did early on was I made first-time home buyer booklets, and I brought those to my open houses. So people would walk through, they've never bought a house, they can start reading about the process of buying a house and all that kind of stuff. So marketing materials, differentiate yourself. Another thing that I did that was helpful was kind of on-the-spot consultations with the buyers. So if it's a slow open house, a buyer comes through, I'm starting to ask questions to them that are, how long have you been looking? What neighborhoods have you been looking at? As they're walking through the house, what are you looking for exactly? 3-bedroom, 2-bedroom, what is this kind of what you're looking for? Get them to talk to you about what they're searching for. If they don't have an agent yet, you can set them up on a MLS search and start sending them properties. And then that gives you a reason to follow up with them. Hey, did you see the property that I just sent over? I thought this might be a good fit for you. So the follow-up after you get them on that campaign or after you meet them, you're going to want to collect their information and continue to follow up, because these people might be hitting up 3, 4, 5 different open houses. They're not going to remember you versus the next agent if you didn't have, a good conversation with them, if you didn't have some good marketing materials that differentiated you, and if you don't keep following up with them. So I got my first deal ever from an open house. Like, they came in and I literally on the spot, they were like, hey, we wanted to see these 2 other houses. And I was like, I'll take you like right after this open house, give me 15 minutes. And I scheduled it on the spot and started taking them out. So open houses, awesome way to start getting business.
Can I add a couple things?
For sure.
So a couple of tools that we have are out of the box, or just already done buyer presentations, I mentioned that, and listing presentations. So day one, you can download them and put your information on them. And they actually are really good because it teaches you how to do the business.
Yep.
And then I just discovered this. There's always something new to discover. I just discovered that Keller Williams has a buyer seminar based on one of the books that Gary Keller and others wrote called Your First Home, like you're buying your first, something like your whole first home. I don't know. So the presentation's already put together, and you can just get started.
Yeah, I mean, if you're looking for something out of the box, we pretty much have it all. If you're a psycho like me and you're gonna put together your own stuff and make it your own, but we have a lot of out of the box tools that you can use.
And then the other 2 things I wanted, because we don't have a tech session, I just wanted to introduce. So we have this really cool thing. It's a Homekeeper and the KW Search app. So every agent is given a KW branded, GPS enabled search app. So you can actually share it with people and call it your green business card. So anywhere in North America, they could be looking at open houses, they could be looking at other for sale or for rent properties. You're on vacation, you can do it. I use it all the time. So that's a really cool thing that we have. And then Homekeeper is for you to basically build your referral database and then provide that back to the people that gave you those referrals for contractors, inspectors, and so on and so forth. So we have a couple really cool tech things that will support you in this.
Yeah, we have a lot of good tech coming out. We also have a CRM coming out that is going to be awesome.
What's CRM?
Do you guys know what CRM is?
Customer reporting management software.
Yeah, so it's essentially your database. It's a place to keep all the names, information of everyone that you meet. So it's a way to organize it and then email them from it, reach out to them from it with phone calls, mailers, all that kind of stuff. So that's exciting that we have one of those in-house that's being built. So another thing for me that was big my first year was social media. And for me, it was like, all right, so I'm a brand new agent. No one knows I'm an agent. How do I reach everyone that I know and tell them I'm a real estate agent now? And for me, it was social media, because it was like Facebook, I had however many friends on there. Instagram, I had, another maybe 800 or 900 friends on there. So I was like, all right, if I start posting about this stuff, people are going to know that I'm doing this. So for me, that was easier than, doing an email list, which is another thing I'll cover, but this was my bread and butter. So I was posting, when I would have an open house, you post a video walkthrough of the house, and people now know that, all right, he's doing open houses on the weekends. It's a way to establish yourself as being in the business and actually working, and not just some guy who got his real estate license who I know. You stay in front of people. So social media videos were great because it's interactive. People like to watch what other people are doing, and you'd be surprised a lot of people, they're gonna see your posts and you'll get likes and comments and whatnot, but the reach that you get past that is so much greater because I'll be at like an event with people that I haven't talked to in like 2 years and they're like, oh, you're doing real estate. And I'm like, I had no idea they even knew I was in real estate, but they know because everyone's following everyone else's lives on Facebook and Instagram. So they will know, and you will get people that you haven't talked to in like 1 or 2 years who reach out to you and are like, hey, my friend just said he's trying to find a rental in Philly, and you know, I see you're always doing these videos, so I figured you might be able to help them. So you'll get leads just from showing people that you're actually in the business.
And I have something to add. Like, I literally last year, I had a client after 10 years come out of the woodwork. I had kept in touch with her. I had no idea if she was still alive, if she still lived in the house. I had no idea. And since then, she'd gotten married, she had a kid, and she was pregnant, and then she wanted to come to a workshop. So, like, people are watching, so it's like, this is where people get discouraged. If I just quit because she didn't reach out to me, you know, like if I stopped sending her my marketing emails, if I stopped reaching out to her, like I would have given up before I would have seen my results.
Yeah, there's people I've been following up with for like a year and a half, and after a year and a half, it's like, now I'm working with them.
Yeah.
So you just don't know, you just gotta keep following up and staying in front of your database as much as possible, because that's how you're gonna get referrals. For me, my first year, it was open houses and referrals and, you know, friends or friends of friends. Like, that was my entire business, and it was enough to do a good amount of business. So, as far as social media, the videos are great, pictures are great. Other things I did were videos that were informational. I knew my demographic. I'm a younger guy. Most of the people who follow me are younger people. They're looking to maybe buy their first house in the next year or 2 or 3. So I started doing videos on, you know, hey, this is what a seller assist is, and this is how you can buy a house for, you know, the least amount of money out of pocket, and just educating people, because if you're putting out content that's educating them, and they think of you then when they're ready to buy a house, they're gonna most likely reach out to you, and then you're gonna be able to help them through that process. Same thing if you know that your demographic is, you know, most of the people who follow you already own houses. Maybe you're going to want to do content that's more geared towards, you know, how do you get a house sold quickly for the most amount of money? How do you make it hassle-free? All that kind of stuff. So educating people and knowing who you're talking to is really important. And then making posts that are like engaging is also another thing. Like recently I posted on my Instagram story, it was just like, hey, comment with your monthly rent and I'll send you a house that you could buy with the same mortgage payment. And I got like a ton of people just reaching out to me with their monthly rent and asking me questions about buying houses. So that was another good thing. And then,
that was a good post.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people like using that. And then again, the follow-up. You'll have people reach out to you one time, they ask you a question about buying real estate, you might not follow up with them again. If you keep following up and saying, hey, like, is there anything you need from me? You don't need to even talk real estate with people. Like, just reach out to them and see what's up, because when you start, like, a lot of people, they'll want to call their, you know, friends, and they'll have a script and stuff, and you're like calling your friends, and they're like, what are you, like, why are you, like, sound like you're reading from a script? Be natural, just like catch up with people, see what's going on in their life. They're going to ask you what's going on in yours, and that's your opportunity to be like, oh, well, I just started a new career, I'm doing real estate, you know, I'm in Philly, and yeah, I'd really appreciate if you send anyone over that you know is thinking about buying or selling, all that kind of stuff. You don't need to be like, you know, super robotic. Database. So this was another thing I did that really helped. I took all of the contacts I had in my LinkedIn, I downloaded them, and I started an email list based on those contacts. And I think I did the same thing with Facebook. I don't know if you still can, but I think I was able to pull down a pretty big list of Facebook friends too. And that kind of started my email list. And then again, I was kind of recycling the content that I was putting on my Facebook and my Instagram, and I was just sending in emails, and I was sending 1 or 2 emails a month. And that got me into plenty of really good conversations with people I hadn't talked to in a long time, people who just saw my emails are like, oh, congrats for getting into the business. People who just started sending me over, hey, my sister's looking for, a house in Philly, can you help her? So the email list is another thing that's big. Just making sure that you're always staying in front of the people who know you and telling them that you're still in real estate, because they literally will forget. Like, if you are not on top of it and posting stuff and sending them emails and calling them, they're not going to remember when it's time for someone to buy a house. And like, the worst thing is when it's like, oh yeah, like my cousin just bought a house, and you're like, oh man, why didn't you tell me? But it happens, and you can't sweat it because you're going to win some and lose some, but it's just like, the more you stay, then you go back and think, you're like, damn, maybe if I would have called him last month or sent an email last month, maybe he would have remembered and, kind of referred him over.
I have a question for the group. Is anybody listening and saying, oh my gosh, they're going to say stop talking to me, stop reaching out, or I'm going to overwhelm them? Is anybody thinking that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for being honest. One of the things we always work on is coming from contribution. Like, what is it that interests them? What is it that would be useful for them? So our goal, like even when you are using scripts, the goal is always just to have a specific, conversation in mind, and then and of course be natural and authentic. Mm-hmm. So we'll always help you come up with something that's coming from contribution rather than, because nobody wants to be like, hey, what do I? Like, nobody wants to do that.
Yeah, that's not going to work for me.
You'll actually start to have fun when telemarketers call you and see
you
how.
Start selling them. You'll be like, hey, do you want to buy a house? You'll definitely get into a natural flow of like staying in contact with the people who you want to be in front of, and making sure that you're getting referrals and all that kind of stuff. And then, so the last thing for adding people to your database, because the people that's only going to bring you so much business. You really want to start meeting as many people as you can. And for me, that was something that I was also pretty good at my first year. Like, I just would put myself out there. I'd go to events and I would just meet people. And the social media kind of backed it up, because I started getting follows from all these people who were investors in the real estate industry and all kinds of stuff. So I would reach out to them sometimes on Facebook, or I would go to these events and then I'd meet them in person. And like, you'd be surprised. You go to these events and you have a good social media following, you start getting people who are like, oh, I know you from Facebook, or like, oh, I know you from Instagram. So you already have that established credibility with that behind you. But then going to these events and just meeting people, and non-real estate related events are great, because everyone who's a realtor is going to the real estate related ones, and they're all trying to find clients or partners or whatever it is, or investors. If you go to like events that are not real estate related, that are a little bit more fun and like, or even just a different industry that you're interested in, that's where you can start to make connections with people who they're not being, like basically just clobbered by a million different real estate agents talking to them. So it's good if you kind of delve out and do things that are fun for you. Like Chris, he said that he does like he goes to a monthly whiskey tasting, and he's gotten a ton of clients from it, because he just meets other people who are interested in tasting whiskey. They start talking, and then when you start talking to someone, what do you talk about? Oh, what do you do for work? I'm a real estate agent. Oh, I need to buy a house. It doesn't happen that easily, but that's the gist of it. So go to these events and expand your network, and make sure that you're always bringing them back and keeping the information and being organized with it. And that's what a CRM will help you do, which is what we're rolling out. So that was like basically my first year in a nutshell: social media, open houses, and literally just talking to every single person that I could about real estate.
To complement what you said, with an E, not an I, I built my business basically through my church, the people I knew at church, through having dogs and just being part of the neighborhood association, so the dog park in the neighborhood association. That's where I started with the sellers. Church was mostly buyers, just because of the demographic people were buying. CrossFit, I did CrossFit for a year, paid $1,800 and earned like 20 times that amount through the referrals, just by being a professional person who's likable, trustworthy, and just having, even quasi-intelligent conversations about real estate, which is mostly asking good questions about them.
Yeah.
You know, you will get business through things you love to do. And I think Jen's going to talk about really loving what you're doing, because that's the only way you're going to do successful lead generation or getting clients, is if you actually like to do it.
All right, I think you're up, Jen.
Great. Oh, yeah. Did anybody have any questions?
Yeah, do you have any questions about, I know I said a lot.
You just,
Yeah.
Are you able to brand yourself under the Keller Williams umbrella
Yeah.
in any way while you're doing social media?
That's another reason I came here.
Yeah.
Some of the brokerage that I was interviewing with, they kind of wanted me to have only their brand. So I have my own website, my own Instagram. I obviously publicize them with KW, but I have my brand is Life on Broad, and I have a whole separate brand from KW. So Philly Living is another brand that's here. Center City Listings, Mike McCann, the real estate
Home
man.
Sweet Home PHL.
Home Sweet Home PHL. we have a lot of different people and it's very conducive of building your own team and building your own brand. And there's a lot of people here who are very good at that, who can help you. So,
You just need to follow the sign laws with Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
And get your signs approved with the office before you print it, because the last thing you want to do is print something without the
Right.
market center phone number and then realize you just spent $300 and you have to redo it.
Yeah, you'll get everything
Yeah.
approved, but
Yeah.
All right, so 2 questions leading into one. Before you began doing real estate, where did you work before that?
I was working at a startup in Newark, Delaware, and I was building websites. And it was a very small company, so I was kind of doing a lot of the different stuff. I was setting up their systems, doing a little bit of the sales and marketing, and building the product. And I was a little bit miserable, so then I quit, and I basically started studying for my license immediately, moved to Philadelphia, and just dove in full time.